let's call this meeting to order at 6:14 p.m. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, so we weren't able to start at scheduled time at 6 p.m. Nonetheless, present with us today we have Dr. Teresa Twine, Miss Lady Ramos, myself, Shane McFarlane, and or Solicitor Eric Smith. Were you guys able to review the minutes that I sent out for, I believe it's October 19th meeting? Did you guys have a chance to review it?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, really and truly, there's not much to discuss in terms of that meeting. It was very, very short. I believe that meeting lasted for approximately 4 minutes or less. So there's not much to really review in terms of the agenda for that meeting. But if anyone has any further comments regarding the minutes for the October 19th meeting, then you could make those comments right now. Lady, anything?
No, I'm good.
And Teresa?
I'm good.
Okay. And just a reminder, that meeting preceded a 6 p.m. executive session that we had to seek advice from counsel in connection to a confidential child work investigation 58. So, in other words, we had an executive session at 6 p.m. followed by a public meeting at 7 p.m. And that meeting, the main reason for that meeting was to make the announcement of the executive session. So the agenda for that meeting was non-traditional, to say the least. In any case, let's move on to... Oh, before I move on to item number 3 on the agenda, I just want to say, because this may be our last or final meeting for the year, so we might want to just take this opportunity to do a brief review of what has happened in different segments, what has happened over the past year. Now, since we're talking about minutes, I just want to say that if we could reflect back to 2018, 2019, I believe all our meetings were in person. So we had, at that time, we had to do written records of our minutes and then submit it to the city. That has somewhat changed since COVID. And now we're doing recorded virtual meetings and submitting those to the city. But in any case, just as a backup and just to keep us refreshed in terms of what we will return to at some point, I think it's best practice for us to continue to have written minutes. With that said, and with no further comments, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented. You're muted, Teresa.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Lady, seconded?
I do second the approval.
Okay. Then we move on to item number 3, and that would be public comment. At this point, if there were to be any members of the public present, we would have given them this opportunity to raise any concerns or ask questions regarding charter-related issues. However, and unfortunately, we do not have any members of the public present. And I did send, as I emphasized very earlier, I did send the Zoom meeting link to Shelley to have her issue that to anyone who wanted to join, anyone from the public who wanted to join tonight. But again, unfortunately, we did not have any feedback on that. Eric, at this point, I'll ask for an update in the right to know request.
There have been no right to know request.
Okay, so with that said, let's move on to item number 5, education initiatives. And this, as you guys know, is my favorite. All right, so the tip of the month, part 4, is complete, and it's ready for you guys to review. So what will happen is, by the latest Friday, I will send the tip of the month to you, lady, and Teresa, just for you to review and approve. That has been a process, and we will return to that process. And I continue to urge you to send me any topics of interest. In fact, we could even make it a part of our meetings to discuss possible topics for future newsletters. So if you guys have any ideas in mind, it doesn't necessarily have to be topics. It could be any kind of updates that you'd like to see on the monthly newsletter. We could have substantive discussions about that, or you could at least send an email to let me know that you have any particular suggestions about the direction of the tip of the month newsletter. Any comments? Okay.
No.
All right, I'll move on to the annotated chart. As we've discussed on numerous occasions, I think the annotated charter needs to be complete. But I also think it's counterproductive to ask Eric to undertake a project of this magnitude during a time when we have an abundance of issues to tend to. I think we all can agree that we are heading in a better direction in terms of our workload. So, with no objections, I would like to ask Eric in our first meeting for 2022 in January. We would like to ask Eric officially to begin the annotated chart. Do you guys have any feedback on that, lady?
What do you mean by
That's a very good question, and it leads me to my next thing in this annotated chart discussion. We're going to ask Eric to, one, give us a description, just for full disclosure, of what the annotated charter is again, and if you will, give us an estimated time frame in which you could have this done.
Well, the annotated, you have the charter, familiar with the charter, and what we started to do years ago was add, when the board makes decisions, add those decisions or advisory opinions or court determinations directly to our version of the charter. So we drop a little footnote, and then the footnote would say advisory opinion number 57 said this about some part of the division. We did that until 2015 or 16, and then because there were other cases going on, and the charter board felt that they didn't, I'm not exactly sure why, but regardless, charter board didn't have us do it. So it hasn't been done in at least 6 years, maybe 7 years. So for all that time, we have we just don't have all the information compiled into the document. And the reason why that's important is because City Council and members of the public and members of the administration can use it as sort of an educational tool, as a guide And as I understand from Linda Kelleher, that as I understand it, City Council likes to have that because they can see different sections of the charter and whether or not the charter board has ever made a decision about it. So that's basically what it is.
We talked about this before. I remember, Eric. And I think at that time that you were busy and you couldn't do it. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's basically it.
Yeah.
Just to lead off that, I don't think it's Eric's problem. I think it's more so the charter board workload. I think over the past few years, particularly 2018, 2019, we were burdened with a lot of different cases, a lot of different matters to tend. And so we thought it would have been counterproductive to ask Eric to take on so many things all at once.
Right.
But I think the charter board needs to change in direction. I think over the past few years, we've been focusing mostly on, advisory opinions and charter board complaint enforcement actions. Not that we have control over that, to be honest, but that's been our main focus for the past few years. And I think we need to change direction and concentrate mostly on our education initiatives, because I think it's common sense that if we educate, we will, enforce less. So I think we need to start with the annotated charter and the tip of the month, and we will have more initiatives education initiatives going forward. But for now, I think those two we need to really concentrate on. So again, in our first meeting in January, Eric, we will get that going. All right. Any further comments, lady? Does that explain?
Yeah, that's explainable.
That
I
explains
just
it?
never heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to advisory opinions. Eric, any new advisory opinions?
No. None that have been requested.
Okay. And any new charter board complaints?
No.
Okay. All right. So at this point, I believe we need to go into an executive session to have Eric brief us on two matters that we need some form of update on. So, Eric, if you could go ahead and pause.
Did you stop the recording?
Oh, I'll go ahead and do it. Okay, welcome back, everyone. That was not so bad at all. Much quicker than I expected. At this point, we have no official action to take, so to speak, but we do have an announcement to make. An announcement of a previous executive session. So on November 16th at 6 p.m., the board met in an executive session to discuss pending litigation, to consult with counsel, to consider an investigation made confidential by ordinance and the city charter, and for the purpose of quasi-judicial deliberation. The board considered the motion to dismiss as amended and served on the board by letter dated November 12, 2021. After discussion, the board made a unanimous decision to dismiss investigation 58 based on judicial economy. At this point, we would turn to the members of the public for comments regarding the matter, but again, we do not have any members of the public present with us today. So we move on to the next item. All right, new business. Is there any new business, Teresa? Any new business, lady?
I'm all good.
You're all good? No new business?
Yeah.
All right. So, in terms of new business, administrative issues that we need to take care of, our meeting dates and time for the upcoming year are coming due. So, at some point next week, or even maybe by Friday, I would like to confirm with you guys a meeting date and time for the remainder of 2022. I have to send this over to the clerk's office to have it advertised on our webpage. So let me make these comments. You know, in 2019, when we met when we used to meet in person, we did make quite a few concessions as to our meeting time. Our dates didn't change much, to be honest. We still did meet on the first and third Tuesdays of each month, but our time was made flexible. And I believe the number one reason for the time flexibility at the time was that the board members, many of us had a major concern about our safety, and our meetings were scheduled for 7 p.m. and we had to, at that time, 2018-19, we had a number of issues, a number of meetings, and not only was it an exhausting period, but it was a period of concern for us because we had to meet at 7 p.m. and then our meeting sometimes lasted an hour and a half. So by the time we get home, it's 10. So because of that, we, I believe, moved some of our meetings to 6 p.m. At that point, we didn't meet remotely; it was in person, and so we became flexible at that point, and then that transitioned over into the COVID period, where we decided, okay, 6 p.m. would be fine, but no, we started to move our dates around a bit more, and understandably so, because people became extremely busy. So we weren't able to stick to our regular schedule all the time. But I do believe that we need to stick to our first and third Tuesdays of each month, and then adjust the time to 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. On our web page right now, it's showing as 7 p.m. So I think we need to come to a conclusion that these meetings need to be held, in my opinion, at 6 p.m. Teresa, if you have any objection to that, let me know, lady, as well.
Is the same date gonna be, or just different dates at 6 p.m.? That's my concern.
Well, the dates will be constant at first and third Tuesdays. However, as with any other issue, we have to remain flexible, because sometimes we do take care of matters that have different deadlines. So, for example, we might have an advisory opinion that needs urgent eyes, and as such, we have to meet, for example, next week, some point where we do not have a meeting scheduled for next week, but we would have to make time for that. So, yes and no. The first and third Tuesdays of the month will be permanent, but however, we will have to also remain flexible to have that change. However, one thing I would also want to remain permanent is for 6 p.m. time. So if you guys have no objections to that, I will make sure.
The time, I'm good with the time.
You're okay with the time? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Secondly, I think some point we have to start mentally readjusting to the idea of in-person meetings. I do love this platform of seeing you guys online, but I do think we have had more substantive discussions in person, and that's for obvious reasons. But I do think at some point we need to start having that conversation again as to when it's suitable for us to return to in-person meetings. Our next thing that I want to discuss is the Charter Board annual report. I did start the report. I'm going to make sure it gets submitted on the third Tuesday in January. I will have that completed and submitted to you guys for review and approval by the end of December, early January. I believe that's it. Teresa, if you could recall before we wrap this up, if you could recall when we started to do the annual report, we did say that we wanted to submit this report in two different formats. One in the e-format and a hard copy. Correct?
Yeah, we did, yes.
Right, and I do think I had tweeted a hard copy for the board members at the time. We all knew what happened at that point, and we got sidelined. But coming January, I do think we need to resume to that idea of having a hard copy submitted to everyone, and also an electronic copy. So I'm going to make sure, and just for full disclosure, this is not a part of the Charter Board's budget. We will continue to find inventive ways to operate. That's it for me. In terms of a new business, that's it. If you guys have anything further to comment, you could go ahead. No? Nothing? Well, listen, this may be our final meeting for the year. So let me just, big May. But in any case, let me just take this opportunity to commend each and every one of you individually. Teresa, I know it's been a very, very difficult year for you particularly. So I want to just say that I appreciate you pushing through with us through the tough times. I sincerely, I do.
You're welcome. Yeah, my concerns, which I wasn't going to mention until sometime next year, I have gotten to the point with my walking where I can barely walk. So, next year I was trying to stick it out because next year is my anniversary year. And I was trying to make it to the end of that time, which I would be resigning because of health reasons. So I want to try to hang in there until that point, as long as I don't have to jump up and down those steps at the courthouses.
Bro, listen, I think with that said, COVID was a good thing for the board because we got.
Yeah.
You extended your time with the board because we could meet remotely instead of in person. So, I do really appreciate it, and I wish at some point I could see you in person so we could have a deeper conversation about everything.
Okay.
All right, and lady, I know you don't really show how passionate you are on our recording, but outside of our meetings, I do know that you care about this city more than anyone else who I've met in Reading. And you are educated on the issues. You're willing to to go above and beyond to make sure that you make the right decision for this city. And I take my hat off to you because there's a lot of people sitting on the sideline criticizing politics in the city, but they're not willing to take a step on the field and try to make a change. And you've made that step, and I've seen where you've become extremely frustrated at times. And I'm beginning to learn a little bit of Spanish, but you say some things in Spanish sometimes that I know.
And that's why I don't do those things in public right now, because that's not more professional this way. So
Right. But in any case, I do appreciate you. I really do. And let's keep this going for the coming year. And as you heard Teresa mention, I think we have to pull our socks up and start doing some serious recruiting for the board. It's very, very difficult to find members to find anyone in Reading who will stick this up or even.
yeah.
So, again, thank you. And then to Eric, I can't say enough about Eric. You've been, I remember a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was so tight. First of all, this has been the most challenging year for me personally. You know, there's a lot of stuff outside of the charter board. There's been a lot going on. It's a very, very busy year. To the extent that I even forgot to draft up an agenda for a meeting. And I remember about 3 weeks ago, Eric said, Shane, I'll take care of it. And in a matter of minutes, the agenda was drafted, it was sent out, and I really do appreciate that, Eric. I do. I appreciate you, going above and beyond again for the charter board.
My pleasure always.
All right. So to everyone, if you have nothing else to say, have a great holiday if we don't talk again before. And take care of yourselves and your family.
Be safe, everybody.
Same to you.